Hey everyone, welcome. My name is JR Spear, and I'm the founder and owner of Business Leaders Network. And our whole mission is to build a community of emotionally intelligent servant leaders. And one way that we like to do it is through education, visibility, and community. And through visibility, we like to make sure that we bring awareness for our members to be able to be seen, heard, valued, and found. And love doing these short interviews to help you guys find out more about the amazing individuals that we have inside of our community. And so today we have Dan Simon. Dan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, JR. It's a pleasure getting to know you over the last few months, and I'm excited to be part of BLN with all the talent and God blessed individuals that are part of your community. So happy to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, today is all about you. So let's find out more about what you're doing, the impact that you're making. So to start out, why don't you share more about like what is it that you do and the impact that you're making in the world?
Well, God's given me a gift over my career. I spent about 35 years in education primarily as an education leader, principal, superintendent in public school, started a charter school, private Christian education, the last part of it. And I just have an ability God's given me to relate, particularly to adolescents. And so in the last decade, I started doing some work with a partner in college and career advising, really more college advising. These were kids who knew where they were going, wanted help with their applications. Over that time, God's really given me a different kind of lane to work in. And so I've expanded that work to include not only the career part, but the calling part, the vocation part, helping students figure out what are their talents and their passions and what is it they're good at. And instead of being told that the only route to success is through a college degree, it's helping them discern that path, helping sometimes their parents also be there to support, but not to drive or intimidate or pressure their children into going a certain direction. And so, as I've grown in that way, my son's own service in the military has gotten me more connected in that community. And so, I've spent a lot of my time over the last 3 years as I built my business to work in military connected families. I work with a lot of Gold Star children. I work with a lot of organizations that are pouring into families. And so that's really where God's landed me now is as we talk about honing in on that kind of ideal client, if you will. God's given me more and more clarity that that's the space that he wants me to be in for such a time as this. So that's really the work that I'm doing now, primarily through Christian education and military connected families, is helping adolescents discern where God's calling them to be and then helping equip them on that journey.
Love that. Why don't you share one of your best client success stories? Where was your one of your best clients? Where are they at they started with you, and what did you help them achieve?
I love the stories. I mean, so often I could go all the way back historically, talk about kids that I connected with. And when I connected with them, just seeing how the relationship evolved and seeing them mature and grow. And when I got into this particular lane, right, it was still relatively new to me because I was still learning a lot also. I think there's really two that kind of have the same story in that they started the journey with me as freshmen, both very introverted, both very much not sure. They knew they wanted college. They didn't know what they wanted to pursue. They didn't have a lot of activity, and they didn't have a lot of leadership. And in both cases, these young men are now leaders in their school. One is his class president. Both are now aggressively, if you will, making contacts with potential internships, creating experiences for their peers. They're being proactive in connecting with colleges and as I said, mentorship opportunities where they're driving the boat now. I mean, there's nothing that can stop these two. Now they're getting their results for their college applications, and both of them are achieving beyond where they ever expected. And it's not that I did it for them, it's what I was able to draw out of them. And it started very early on. And that's why a lot of what I do is really impactful when it starts in that kind of eighth to ninth grade formative time when they're coming out of middle school. It's time to get a little serious. And instead of waiting until junior year, putting it off because we have time. These two came to me at that time and are completely different than they were when they started with me. And it's just relationship. It's the ability to ask the right questions. Even if it's something I would see for them, I'm not telling them, I'm drawing it out of them,
Hmm.
which means they own it. And in that process, parents coming on board saying, I didn't see this for my son, but man, am I so glad he's going this direction because this seems to be absolutely aligned with not only what he's good at, but what he likes, what excites him. And that's where I sometimes have to recognize either overtly or covertly that's God. That's
Hmm.
God, giving him that talent, giving him that ability. It was just a matter of doing all the right things to draw it out. So that without question, those are my two favorite examples of why I believe God's called me to do this work now.
I love that. Great story, that's going to make a bigger impact further beyond just the college and
Mhm.
leadership and beyond. So, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, the next question is, why don't you share more about who the best referral partner would be? And what I consider a referral partner is like, who are these individuals industry wise, not necessarily people, but industry wise, who serves your ideal clients without being direct competition of you? Who are those people?
That's a fantastic question because as I'm learning this space, right, you listen to a lot of different podcasts and read a lot of different books. And, there's always that idea that there's always room for one more in the space, right? Nobody does it the way you do it. And that's all true. What I've really found is that for me, the faith-based piece is a non-negotiable. And for me also, the military connected space is really critical. And so it's like finding that niche of who does both of those, right? So not everybody does both, but it for me it has to be one or the other, right? I'm gonna be working with somebody that's gonna have a faith-based component or military connected. So for me, what I have found is that there are a lot of organizations out there that support the military family, right? And so and many of them actually support the military adolescent on their journey to college, right? And so like that's great. And it's, scholarship paying for them, helping them, that's great. But what I've asked almost every one of these organizations as I've sat with them is what about all the kids that aren't going to college? What about all the ones that don't know what they want to do? How are we reaching them? And that seems to always be the point where it's like, well, I don't know, but that's not really what we do, right? So what I would say is that when there's a military connected organization or some individual connected to a military organization or a community, honestly, the homeschool community is another group like that. You and I spoke about the fact that entrepreneurs themselves, right, are everybody kind of overlooks the importance of walking the adolescent through that journey, starting in the beginning of that transition from eighth to ninth grade. So I would say for me, anyone connected to those organizations where there are adolescent children that may not be getting what they need from the school, they may not be because honestly, I mean, counselors in schools are fully outnumbered, right? And they're also dealing with so many social, emotional, mental health issues that really walking alongside a student consistently over 4 years is really hard to do. And so I want to be able to be the person who comes alongside, particularly in faith-based and military connected context, to be able to say, hey, parents, I'm going to do this for you so you have information. And then from there, if you know another group that needs to hear this information, pass it to them. If you have a specific on base military organization, let them know that I'm willing to come and do this, whether it's live, whether it's online. That those opportunities are starting to grow and they're really making an impact.
No, that's really good. Well, that drives us to our next question on who is your ideal client?
Yeah, so I've thought a lot about this, recently, right? To go from that first time I answered that question was, well, I don't know. I guess anybody who wants my help, right? I mean, that's a little too broad for any kind of business. But I, for me, the student, honestly, the best student for me is the student who has no idea what they want to do, right? The student who's driven to a college application, there are a lot of people out there. I mean, honestly, in this field, there's a lot of people out there. Some of them are very expensive, right? That just are they're designed to say, hey, and they make promises, that I'm going to get you in. What's different about what I do, JR, is it's not programmatic, it's relationship based. We won't talk at all about what I think, or I won't start planting seeds about opportunities until I know the person that's across the room from me.
Yeah.
And that comes through questions, that comes through prayer, that comes through trust. And so for me, the greatest satisfaction comes from a parent who says, I'd really like you to sit down with my son or my daughter. They just don't really seem to have any motivation. They don't seem to have any idea. And quite honestly, that's where the gifting God has given me comes out is these. I can't tell you how many times a parent or even a teacher or a principal has said, I don't know how you did it, but you got through to that kid. Nobody's ever been able to get through to that kid. And so that to me is my gifting. And so that's why I believe God's called me to reach those students who have been unreachable, those students who have had no interest, those students who have been unmotivated. And again, I say that particularly in the context of military connected because there are so many sacrifices that are happening there in those families. I want to be able to give back to them in this way and serve those families well. It's not the only client, but it's the primary client that I believe God's called me to serve.
I would have been your perfect client because I went in the military because I was like, I had no direction, didn't know what I would do. So that's awesome. Well, where's the best place for someone to reach you?
So I would say my website's pretty easy. It's dansimonsolutions.com. I'm going to say that again because I think I glitched. dansimonsolutions.com. And that will give a general overview of the different services that I do, but there is a tab at the top specifically for military. And that will outline kind of my two approaches. One, which is to work with an organization that works with these families. The other approach is to work with a family who wants this service for their child. So I would say dansimonsolutions.com. My email is dan@dansimonsolutions.com. And I'm happy to share a phone number. Maybe we can do that in the show notes that people can obviously call, leave a message, reach out. Happy to always have a free consultation call to recognize kind of, again, where the child is at and if I'm a good fit. And if I'm not a good fit, I always promise to find a direction that can provide the kind of help that a family needs.
I love that. Well, there you go, guys. For all you listeners out there, if this resonates with you, if you're saying, you know what, I could definitely use their help for your family, your child, whatever it may be, I would encourage you guys to go to dansimonsolutions.com. Make sure you reach out to them and seeing if that resource is something that would be a good benefit to you. So for everyone else out there, Semper Fi.